thing, like that. And what else was it? Oh, the one with the witches. I can't remember what that one was. And just all of those. Oh, dang it! You started the dates, you jerk.
It kept sounding like there was going to be a natural break, and then and then there was more, and I was like, oh, whoops.
Yeah, long story short, all of those 90s sort of TV shows were just kind of meh for me.
Yeah,
So
fair
sorry.
enough.
And early 2000s too. Sorry, Paul Wesley. Still love you, man.
Definitely. Welcome, everybody, to the Unready Room. You heard just the last bit of that. You probably have no idea what we're talking about, but
I'm gonna tell you.
this this is the Unready Room. This is on brand for us. We are talking today about Star Trek Strange New Worlds, and with little side conversations about the many roles of Paul Wesley.
Mhm.
I'm Dan Gunther. With me, of course, is Brandi Jackola. Brandi, hi.
Hi. Hi. And we're doing finger guns now. All right.
Hey. Oh, Matthew, yeah, we're taking the morning off from Folk Fest because I had to do this, and also it's raining now, and I don't know. We'll see how Folk Fest goes. Grand Prairie has the Bear Creek Folk Fest right now. Amazing music and stuff. We were there till midnight last night with Jewel, listening to the Jewel concert, and today I think we've got Walk Off the Earth closing us out at the end of the day, and just awesome lineup. If you're in Grand Prairie, around Grand Prairie, Bear Creek Folk Fest, check it out every year. They're awesome. Anyway, that's a very, very niche number of our watchers. Although actually, with Matthew, probably a good percentage of our math's funny, y'all.
Yeah.
But we're here to talk about Star Trek Strange New Worlds, Season 3, Episode 6, The Sehlat Who Ate Its Tail, which, if you got that initial list of episodes that came out before the actual episodes dropped, and you saw this title, it gives you no clue as to what this episode is about. And I think there were some assumptions and that sort of thing, and nobody could have guessed what this episode was going to be from that title. So yeah, I had a very enjoyable experience watching this and being like, oh, okay, all right.
Well, and it's interesting because most people say Sehlat, but Spock says Salat, and also Mariner says Salat. So I'm gonna go with Salat as the
Fair
pronunciation.
enough. Fair enough. In my mind, T'Pol is ahead of them both in the timeline, and she said Sehlat. So
Yeah, well, she's older, so the pronunciations change,
yeah, just a couple hundred years
and
there. Yeah.
yeah, so she's probably still around. I bet Spock's run into her.
Probably, yeah. Yeah. I look forward to that depiction at some point. That would be nice. But
Yes.
yeah, so the Sehlat who ate its tail, or Salat who ate its tail. We start this episode in a way that was interesting. We're aboard the USS Farragut with Jim Kirk giving a log entry about basically his life as a first officer. And um, I love this bit here where he's, really pushing against the constraints of his role and really wanting to sit in the big chair, right? Like he wants to become the Kirk that we see later. He's very ambitious. And I thought he had an interesting captain first officer dynamic that I wasn't expecting.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting that either. I didn't remember much about the Farragut from the original series, but I was surprised that there was a Vulcan captain. No problem with that. Love me
Mhm.
some Vulcans. And he was just he was just so deeply bored with what they were doing. And how he just kind of sidles over to the captain and goes, you know, and just, actually, it's like you're appealing to a Vulcan dude. This attitude is not going to serve you. You need to
Mhm.
present cold hard facts.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was fun.
I loved their back and forth, and the one thing that struck me immediately was it felt like the inverse of Archer and T'Pol.
Mhm.
Because like early on, especially in Enterprise, we had like, they roll up to a planet and Archer's like, load up the shuttle pods, let's send teams, let's go camping. And T'Pol's like, there are several protocols, unmanned probes should be sent first, we should blah blah blah. And he's like, nope, not gonna happen. uh and this is kind of the reverse. We have the T'Pol type, we have the Vulcan in command, doing things by the book. And Kirk's like, let's stretch our legs, let's go to the planet. And she's like, that's not protocol. He's just like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Well, thankfully, they didn't go to the planet or they'd
Yeah.
all be dead.
Yeah. So that moment, right? The planet basically erupts in front
Oh,
of them.
just
And like in that moment you can see Kirk's face, and it gets reinforced later in the episode when he actually says what he was thinking in that moment, which of course was, if they'd have followed my orders, if I would have been in charge, we would have all been on the surface when that happened, and there was no warning.
mhm.
And I mean, it's a pretty fluke thing, but like that's still got to be so sobering that just in an instant, I'm thinking of McCoy in 2009, right? Space is disease and danger wrapped in darkness and silence. Like any second, you can just like be snuffed out.
Yeah, because that's the thing. You're exploring the unknown, which means you don't know what is going to happen because it's unknown.
Hmm. Yeah. So yeah, we see this planet explode. We see Kirk see something on the view screen. We don't get a look at it yet, but of course my mind's going through like, what could this be? Like the planet was just killed, and I was like, planet killed, planet killer. And I was like, no, they wouldn't, like, he would have recognized it later and all this stuff. So I'm already like, what is happening? I love the direction of this episode. I love how things are presented to us. And it's so well put together, start to finish. And right in the beginning here, it grabs your brain and does not let go.
Absolutely. Once that planet started to disassemble, I was all in, all
Mhm.
in. And I really just overall, I really enjoyed this episode, of course, and it's also really hard. But I really appreciated Paul Wesley's performance as Kirk, and I could
Mhm.
see the future Kirk in him in this
Yeah.
episode. He's starting to figure it out, and it just made my heart happy.
And yeah, there's those little shifts that he's doing to become the Kirk that we know and love. And that's not to say he's doing like a William Shatner impersonation or anything like
No.
that. But he is introducing little bits into his character where, okay, I can see where this is going. Um Cards on the table, this very morning, I just rewatched A Space Adventure Hour because my mom hadn't seen it, and that's where we are in watching Strange New Worlds. And so like Paul Wesley can do William Shatner.
Mhm,
He can also do William Shatner turned up to like 13,
mhm.
which is that episode. But I'm sure like he could dial back and do a very good, actual accurate William Shatner as Captain Kirk. That's not what he's doing. He's bringing his own thing to Kirk, but it's just he's introducing little things that are so subtle that like every once in a while I'm just like, there's no difference between the characters in my mind when I'm watching. And that's brilliant acting. I think that's brilliant directing, and that's brilliant writing.
Yep, and that was directed by a lady. So,
Yes,
there you go.
absolutely.
But I love that Paul Wesley is doing his own thing with it while not completely abandoning things from the
Mhm.
originator of the character. And how just blending those 2, I don't even know how he does it, but it's seamless.
Mhm.
I have nothing but nice things to say about him, and I will say those nice things to his face in approximately 6 weeks.
I'm very jealous. I've not met Paul Wesley. That's going to be a lot of fun.
Yes, it is. And also, I will be meeting Doug Jones and Sonequa Martin Green. So it is going to be a triple threat of
Awesome.
me crying at people, I guess.
Doug Jones, I have also not met. Sonequa Martin Green, I did get the pleasure to meet, and she is just like the nicest, happiest, smiliest, open person. She's so cool. Yeah, you'll
She
love her.
is. I know. I know I will. So excited.
So can we talk for a second about that shot? And people who've seen this episode know the shot I'm talking about. The Farragut has been heavily damaged. It's drifting in the foreground. There's chunks of the planet heading towards it. Enterprise warps in, phasers chunks of the planet away, turns, gets in front of the Farragut, and blocks incoming fire and protects it. That whole sequence, my jaw was just on the floor. If this
Mhm.
was in a movie theater, I'd be saying like, these are amazing visual effects for a film. Wow. This is a TV show. It's just, I couldn't believe. It's like if I was composing a cool fan fictiony shot of what, a starship coming to the rescue would look like. That's what it looked like. It was so cool.
It was so cool. It was so freaking cool. And I I just rewatched the episode this morning
Mhm.
because I wanted it to be extremely fresh in my mind. And when that shot happens, I'm just like, this is beautiful. Basically, this episode made me extremely emotional for a variety of reasons.
They should have sent a poet. But
Yeah, it's
absolutely beautiful.
glorious. Just unbelievable. Just
Yeah.
a feast for the eyes.
And so yeah, we also get our first look at this, what has caused this, which is this marauder ship. Which I've seen some people pushing back online, like saying the skull on the front and opening up is too much. To which, like, you're entitled to your opinion. To me, based on what we learn, and we'll talk about the twist at the end, based on what we learn about this episode, I think like it drives that metaphor home of the consumptive society that these people come from, and the just using and taking, and with little thought. Like, I thought the mouth opening up and physically eating the Enterprise was,
Mm.
I mean, yeah, maybe it's a little bonk bonk on the head, as they say, as far as the metaphor goes, but like, I'm here for it.
I actually completely agree with that because I was thinking about it earlier and thinking, did they really need to have the jaws opening and whatnot? And then I started thinking about what we're doing to our own planet right now
Mhm.
and how we don't care anymore about our natural resources dwindling. We're just, for not a better word, raping the planet,
Mhm.
and we don't have any foresight as to what that is going to do to this big blue ball that we live on.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. And it ties into, again, the big reveal at the end, that what if you took that to its extreme?
Yeah. Absolutely. So the producers of this show, I think, are drawing on a lot of things. There's a lot, like, for as good as this episode is, it draws on a lot of touchstones from the past, from other Star Trek episodes, from other things, some big tropes in Star Trek, but uses them all really, really well. So when Kirk's looking on the Farragut screen and sees the Enterprise attacking this thing, and it's turning around and bearing down on it, I'm like, okay, that is like beat for beat Kirk watching the planet killer from the constellation as the Enterprise is trying to draw it away and almost getting swallowed up and stuff until he's able to draw it off. But uh so it puts things in an interesting context, because now I'm thinking, the Kirk that we see in the Doomsday Machine has this memory now
Mhm.
of seeing a very similar thing, and in that moment on the Constellation, he's like, "Scotty, I need any bit of power. We need to draw that thing away from the Enterprise." And he's probably remembering, I mean, obviously he's not, it was written in the 60s, but in this fictional world, in my mind, he's remembering seeing this thing swallow the Enterprise, which now is a ship that he cares about deeply because it's his ship. And he's like, that's not happening again. And I love that. The angles, everything on the screen, it just really reminded me of that, especially if you watch the remastered version of the Doomsday Machine. It looked almost one for one.
Agree. I don't like the remastered version of
Hmm,
the Doomsday Machine because the planet killer is less scary.
fair enough.
So,
Yeah.
that's just how I feel about it because that was one of those episodes that absolutely terrified me as a kid and gave me nightmares. So, but I agree. I noticed that same exact thing and I thought, "Wow, this is reminding me of the planet killer." And there's something else I wanna say, but I can't say it because, screener.
Okay. Well,
Can't say anything else about what I think about that, but when we get to it, I'll be sure and tell you.
interesting. Okay. For the record, I have no idea what I haven't watched very
I
far ahead, so
I
okay.
know, I know,
Interesting.
I know. It's, yeah.
So yeah, the Enterprise does get swallowed in this instance though, and this Marauder ship warps away, leaving the battered Farragut pretty much helpless. And this is going to be Kirk's trial by fire. He's going to be Captain Kirk now. He's going to be referred to that because he has to take command. The Farragut's captain has been transported to the Enterprise sick bay. She's incapacitated. Kirk's in command. And I find it interesting that his bridge crew in this is now Chapel, Scotty, Uhura, and of course Spock. So it's a neat little like, oh, this is a big reason why he chooses those people as his crew later on. And I love that.
Yes. My husband said the same thing when we watched this the first time. He said, "Oh, look, it's the bridge crew of the Enterprise." And I'm like, "You're right."
Hmm.
It's beautiful. I love it. I love that. And there's so much to talk about. Yeah. I don't want to keep skipping around, but Spock being there at the time that he is and knowing what he knows about James and just what he's learned from serving on the Enterprise is just honestly, he was right when he said that someone who is less emotional would be better to talk to him. And wow, that conversation.
Yeah, yeah. Um, yeah. Let's talk about Spock and Kirk now. Then that's a good time
Good.
to.
So what too?
This is, yeah, the forging of, or another step on the forging of this relationship between these two people, professionally and personally, right? Like Kirk has gone through um tragic circumstances here, probably traumatized a little bit in realizing that, maybe his ideas of how this all works aren't quite correct, and he has a lot to learn. And Spock was there to kind of guide him through it and help him through it. And yeah, I want you to talk about that conversation between him and Spock in the ready room because, and I mean, yeah, we are jumping all over the place, but
That's what we do.
yeah, I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Well, when Spock is the one who volunteers, it's like, oh yeah, he knows what he's doing. He absolutely
Mhm.
knows what he's doing. And he is also the first person to address him as Captain Kirk.
Yeah.
That means something. That means a lot because everybody, like Scotty, Uhura, Chapel, who's down in sick bay trying to help people out. He's basically the commanding officer of this away team, and so he is the one who is going to take charge, but not because he thinks he's better than everyone else, but because he thinks he can get through to James.
Mhm.
He has been through some things himself. He has been through some things that have made him not believe that he can do what he wants to do. So he's the perfect person to, in a very, what's the word I'm looking for here? A very constructive and yet scientific way, explain why it's okay to have doubts, but
Mhm.
you know what to do. You will find your way, and we are all here to help you. That is what we are here for. We are your crew. So
Mhm.
what are your orders? And he just takes all of Kirk's emotional stuff and just kind of absorbs it and then spits out logic at him and spits out facts, but without sounding like a robot. You know, he
Mhm.
actually had some feeling behind what he was saying, even though he was very much in Vulcan mode.
Yeah.
Um, and it was just, it really looked like this is the reason why Spock is Kirk's first officer. Right here. This is the beginning of that. This is the
Mhm.
beginning of Kirk finding his way because, yeah, he was full of himself. He fully admits it. And that's another great thing. A commander, a captain who can admit their faults, that is an amazing thing, and that's how all Starfleet captains should be.
Mhm.
And so, but he thinks those faults make him not fit to command, and Spock has a very different view on that. And
Yeah.
it's just amazing, the talk between them 2. It isn't very long,
Mhm.
but it is so impactful in so many ways.
Mhm.
Just, ugh, so great.
The one line that jumped out to me, and Barry commented on this as well. I can't remember exactly the preamble to it, but Spock is saying to Kirk, if you go out there and continue, to foster these doubts and don't let the crew know that you have the situation in control and that all of this, that would be, and you expect him to say illogical, like it just,
Mhm.
the cadence is like, that would be bad.
Yeah.
Like, and the gravity in his voice when he was like, bad, that would be bad. You get what he means, that like these people will die without a strong leader to get them through this situation, right? Or, there will be confusion, there'll be mutiny, there'll be like all these things will snowball unless he becomes that leader he needs to be in that moment. And I loved Spock's delivery, where you just like, you've heard him say things like this a million times and it's going to be illogical, and his eyes, he's saying it and then they shift to the side and he looks at it like a possible future and just says bad.
Mhm.
Ah, it's so good. Ethan Peck is brilliant in this.
He is. There isn't a not brilliant actor in this entire episode,
Yeah.
in this series, really. It's one of my favorite things about the entirety of Strange New Worlds is this particular scene,
Mhm.
because it's like, we know, oh, look at Spock and Kirk, but they don't have that relationship yet, but they're forming it right
Mhm.
in that moment. That
Yeah.
is where it starts.
And that's what I love. That's what I've really come around on my initial trepidation about Strange New Worlds as a concept. Like when they first announced it, everybody was gung ho for a Pike series. I was kind of like, I don't know. Like, do we really need something? Like, they complained about Discovery where it is and messing with continuity. Do we really need another show there that has all these chances to trip things up and stuff? And what they've done is show the building of this crew, and not in a silly, I might make enemies here, but in a silly way that, like, for example, the Han Solo movie did,
Mm,
where it's just a bunch of scenes of him collecting all the trinkets and things that he needs to have to be Han Solo. in a way, that's what they're doing with Kirk and the other people here, but they're not collecting trinkets. They're not doing all these superficial things. They are building these people up from someone that they are not later into what they will become later. And like that's the way you tell a story. You take a hero, you take somebody that you think you know backwards and forwards, and you show them doing something that's not at all in character. That's like, that's not the person I know. Of course they're not. They haven't become that person yet. Let's show the story of them becoming that person. So when I see online people complaining about, oh, Kirk was emasculated here and he's not the hero and blah blah blah. Well, no, of course he's not. He's a kid. He's learning this. That's the brilliance of the storytelling. It would be so boring if, you know, the Vulcan captain was incapacitated and he stepped onto the bridge and was all dashing and knew exactly what to do and when to do it, and pulled things like the Corbomite maneuver out of his butt and just like saved the day. And no, like that's not good storytelling.
Yeah.
That's fan fit wish fulfillment or something.
That's
It's
Mary
like, oh,
Sue.
let's that's okay. And again, not to like, I know they have their fans and I enjoy certain aspects of them and stuff, but it's just occurring to me as I'm saying this, that's what Star Trek 2009 did, right? Kirk and them, they were all cadets, and then as soon as Pike's out of the picture, it's like Kirk's the captain, we have a day and everybody is in the positions they're supposed to be in, and Kirk, it's just like that doesn't make any sense and it feels unearned. This is the ultimate earning of all of this stuff, and I am absolutely here for this. It didn't occur to me till talking it through just now. This is like the showrunners of Strange New Worlds answer to what Star Trek 2009 did, which was and this is like, let's make some meat out of this.
Yeah, and then they repeat that mistake with Into Darkness.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's like, oh, you can go do anything you want now. You've created this alternate universe. Oh, you're going to go right back to canon, huh? And put a white guy in his con. Great idea.
Well,
Great
yeah,
idea.
that's a
Great
whole
idea,
nother
guys.
discussion, but
Yeah. But thank you for making me feel vindicated about my extreme dislike of 2000. And I saw it on my birthday.
Oh, see, there are things that I like about it, but the rush to get everybody into their right positions so that we can have a picture that looks like classic Star Trek is just like, it's so boring and lazy. Like, no, I like this building of a hero,
Yeah.
and like they've been doing with Scotty in this season as well, is he's not the miracle worker. He's in over his head. He's, frazzled and not quite there. Which is a great segue to talk about Scotty in this episode, because he
Yes.
had some moments that I absolutely loved. He is seeing what Kirk's doing. He's seeing Kirk falling apart. He gets the order from Kirk that, like, he tells him, these engines will implode and they will become nothing more than paperweights if you push them. And Kirk does the thing we've seen Kirk do later, which is, Scotty, I trust you. You've got this. Push it to the max. And with no regard to what Scotty said. Now, later, Kirk knows when and how to do that and to what extent. This Kirk, as he says later, is flailing. He's pushing every button and trying to see what works. And it blew up in his face. Scotty sees all this and immediately loses faith in Kirk as a leader, which is exactly what would happen. And I love the kind of mutiny talk that comes up, or the removing, not.
No. Which one's frozen? Is it me or is it Dan? I don't know. Is it me?
There we go, I think.
Aha!
Yee.
I can hear
Okay,
you.
my internet flickered there, I guess. Sorry.
Yeah.
Am I still
My
here?
cat. Yeah, you're here. My
Okay.
cat is screaming out the door. Do you want to come in? You coming in or what? Come on. Come on. Now you're trapped.
Well,
Come here. Come here. Say hi to everybody. This is Growler.
he loses faith in Kirk, and I love that later on when Kirk finally does snap out of it thanks to Spock and comes on the bridge and says, I value everybody's input and don't worry, we will get through this and I have a plan. And Scotty saying, thank you, sir. I needed to hear that. I love that moment. That was perfect.
It was perfect. I I really love that. Obviously, Kirk is someone who learns from his mistakes instead of doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result.
Mm-hmm.
So I that's another thing that I really love about this episode is Kirk knowing that he screwed up, admitting to people's faces that he screwed up and that he didn't listen to Scotty and now they have no way to maneuver. And just this whole thing, like what you said earlier about emasculation, the people who are saying that
Mm-hmm.
are the ones who are not secure in their own masculinity. That's not a reflection on the character, that's a reflection on them.
Mm-hmm. And their unrealistic expectations as
Yeah.
well. Like, yeah, like they're wanting to jump to the end of the story, which is the Kirk,
Mhm.
excuse me, that we see later. And I'm much more interested in this, which actually is a story. Like, how does Kirk become the Kirk we know and love? So to me, that's the meat of this episode, is all of that, which I'm here for. Um, so let's jump over to the Enterprise then, which, yeah, it's being torn apart and sucked, the energy sucked out of it by this marauder ship. There's these marauders invading the ship with these big huge suits that absorb phaser fire, and they fire things that are kind of like bullets. um they were genuinely terrifying,
Mhm.
these people. And immediately I'm like, they're hiding their faces for a reason. What's the twist going to be here? And then of course we get the moment where one of them has, the phaser on Pike and sees Pike's face and hesitates, and all of that. And it's like, okay, so there's some recognition there. At that moment I'm thinking humans, but it could have been a million other things as well. But that twist is definitely an interesting one. And again, we're using Star Trek tropes that we've used a million times before, but I think doing it really well.
Mhm.
Like, how many 20th and 21st century things have we flung out there that are just going to come back and bite us in the butt? Whether that's, everything from V'ger to Voyager's Friendship 1 to there's still a sleeper ship full of Khan and his followers out there somewhere. Even just, turns out killing off all the humpback whales is going to come back and bite us in the butt. This is yet another thing in that list, but I think it works really well as a commentary on our society, right? Like, the earth is a lost cause. We need to go out there and secure humanity's future. What does that mean? Well, a continuation of our cycle of consuming and using and destroying, and just unleashing that on the galaxy and seeing what that looks like in a couple hundred years. It's not pretty.
Mm-mm.
No.
It's not. And honestly, Dave, my husband, for all of you who don't know, but Dave pegged them as humans way earlier than I did.
Mm.
We were just sitting and watching, and he's like, "They're human, aren't they?" And I'm like, "Oh, I bet you're right." And it was no less devastating when Pike takes off that helmet and sees the human inside.
Yeah.
And well, just okay. For that whole sequence, Spock checking to see how many casualties there are, and just okay, this is why Ethan Peck's a genius. The way he just stops for a second and then realizes he has to tell everyone this,
Yeah.
and he's, like, devastated. I mean, he's half human. Of course, he's going to have, some kind of compassion for all of the people that they just killed, but it was just the way that he was looking, and then it was like he pulls back just a little bit, and and it's so subtle. He could have done something bigger, he could have
Mhm.
raised an eyebrow or anything like that, but he didn't. It was so very subtle, and it was perfect.
Yeah.
It was perfect. The perfect reaction.
The part that got to me was like I had remembered thinking early on that there's some connection there. Maybe they're human, maybe it's something else. But when they destroyed the ship and the camera goes across and there's like, yes, and Scotty jumps out of his chair and like, woo, like whoops. And I remember thinking like, oh, I don't like that reaction. Like you're still killing a lot of people. And then like half a second later, I'm like, oh, they're focusing on this for a reason. This is going to come back and bite them hard, isn't it? And then sure enough, in the next minute or so, all the revelations come out and you're like, oh man. But like even before I knew they were human, I was like, I don't like the celebration.
Mm.
That's a lot of death. And I know they did horrible things and they've done horrible things, but like, oof, and then of course the final revelation that it the total number of people were around 7,000 and the total casualties were 7,000. Every last one of them is dead. That's the end of this misadventure from the 21st century. It was just so sobering and like what a moment.
Yeah, it was I'm glad that they showed the bodies. I'm glad they
Yeah.
showed the bodies floating out in space because that's what it would look like. And it really drives the point home that
Yeah.
what it's in a way it's kind of a commentary on what would we do if we had nothing to restrain us. And that
Mhm.
ship and their scavenging is what that became for them. That was what they would do without any oversight, without any barriers, without any laws to keep them from doing it.
Mhm.
And it's the thing is that it'll be so easy for humanity right now to go down that path. We're already on it. We're already on that path.
Yeah.
I don't want to see the end of it. I don't want to see where this path goes. I've seen where it goes. We've
Mhm.
seen it over and over again in Star Trek. And yet we still just think of it as a cute little metaphor instead of what our future actually is going to turn into if we don't start making some changes and fast.
Yeah. Absolutely. 100%. I don't have anything to add to that. That's perfectly put. Absolutely. Um, so this might be a good point to pivot to something else I wanted to talk about in this episode, which is Pelia,
Yes.
who we get her
Order.
age in this episode. She's 5,000 years old, approximately, apparently. And so she lived through all this. She remembers the launching of this ship and the monologue she gives talking about how they were the best of us and all of this was so moving, for a character especially who's used a lot of times for kind of comedic value. The fact that she is so ancient and has lived through all of this is so well used here to just drive home the poignancy of what happened and what these people became. um, but at the same time, we also get some really fun stuff from her in this. Apparently, in those quarters of hers, all of the things she has includes a trunk of telephones, just random telephones. The cat clock I loved, where she was like, "Oh, you were charming and fun until you just got really creepy," or whatever she said. Um, I love Pelia. I think she's great. I do wonder how much stuff she has in those quarters, and are her quarters a TARDIS? Um,
Ooh, well, interesting that you should use that word.
Speaking of which, yes, I didn't notice this when I watched the episode, but I've seen the screen caps now. There's a TARDIS, little, like,
Mhm.
perched on the Enterprise when it's stuck in the Marauder ship.
How
So a
about
little
that?
Doctor Who reference there.
Which doctor? We don't know
Don't
because he
know.
travels in
Don't know.
time, or she, he or she
Yep.
travels in time. So, and into different universes apparently too, which is fine. I'm fine with it. But yeah, Patrick sent me that screenshot, and I laughed out loud, and I also went, "Yes,"
uh, oh, and
because I'm that
also
person.
reference to my name, the fact that Pelia was a roadie for the Grateful Dead. Of course she was. Of course she
Of course she
was.
was. Of course she was. Yeah, another thing, when she was pulling things out of that trunk, I noticed one thing looked like an early Atari console, and the
Yes.
next thing she pulled out looked like a wireless version of an Atari controller.
Yeah, because what did she say? I used this to pilot a starship. Of course it was 8-bit, but it was a fun Friday night or something like that.
Mhm. Yeah, that was very much, I mean, I remember having that controller minus the battery pack and the antenna, but I remember spending a lot of time with that controller in my youth.
So that was fun. I did love the, wiring the Enterprise up with phones because you can't interfere with them, and you just cut the line. That's the only thing that will interfere with that signal, right? So
Mhm.
um
Smart.
yeah, I appreciated that.
"Oh, no, not again. Dan, come back to me, Dan."
Mrrr. I'm back, I think.
Good. You are.
Sorry, everybody. Oh. Um, but yeah, so the wiring the Enterprise up with the phones, I thought that was fun. And then manually controlling the thrusters of the ship, and then Una um blowing the airlock open to, really put Isaac Newton in the driver's seat to get them out of the ship. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, well, her joystick was no longer functioning, and so she had no choice. She had to do something. She blew out
Oh, yeah.
one of the bays, so one of the little, what do you wanna call that? Airlocks, there it is.
Airlock.
That's the
Yeah.
word. That's the word. She blew it out the airlock.
So that was good. Nice little bit of physics there. But yeah, the last thing I really want to talk about with this episode, do a focus on, is that final conversation between Kirk and Pike. And I love Pike's ability to put things in a bit of perspective, because everybody has their feels about what has happened here, and feel very distraught, and all of this. But I do love Pike's line, which I hadn't immediately considered when going through all this. Like, yes, it's a huge loss of life, and yes, all of this has happened, but on some level, like, they saw us, and either they didn't care, or they oh shoot, and now I've screwed up the line. Either they didn't care or they didn't recognize us, right?
Mhm.
And either way, like, they lost their way. And it just really put that in perspective, and was the right thing to say to Kirk in that moment for all of that. I love that moment.
It's a fantastic moment, and just looking at the way this entire ship operated and what they were doing, of course, you're going to assume that they're terrible life forms because they have no regard for the life on any of these ships.
Mm-hmm.
All they're doing is just, who cares if there's 213 or whatever souls on board? Your ship is ours now. We're just gonna sell it for parts, not sell it, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Just gonna use it for the parts. Organic life forms, they didn't care. They
Yeah.
didn't care. And they've done this to so many people. There was a Klingon ship in there.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah. And like, all these different cultures, even the Gorn, have like this legend about this ship. So it's been out there doing this for a couple centuries.
Oh,
Like,
longer.
well,
It feels like.
it has to be 21st century to
Yeah,
23rd
yeah,
century, right? Yeah.
yeah. Well, maybe. I wonder. Because there were some people saying that it was older than that, but that's that's the thing about myths, is
Hmm.
that you can hear, like, there's always some monster out on the edge of space, isn't there?
Yeah.
So it could have been conflated with this ship, and because it looks like a monster, it straight up looks like a monster.
Yeah. So the YouTube version of the podcast Barry and I did about this, somebody left a comment. Darren GW left this comment, and I thought this was interesting, different perspective. I really liked this episode, and my other guess about the ship was that it was managed by a corporate team and wasn't run as a democracy or with the same ideals as we see later in the Federation. I suspect that at some point that ship came across a warp capable ship, maybe one that was already damaged. They were probably getting desperate and managed to capture that ship and integrate their warp system into their own ship along with other systems. Lack of universal translator, general fear, and a more corporate approach to management could have all played into the situation. Over time, that grew into what we saw later. I also suspect that the ruling class on that ship did know about the Federation from captured computer data from other ships and what had happened on Earth, but it was probably kept a secret from the majority of the crew in order to preserve their power, especially since the Federation would represent the opposite of everything they had become. I think that could explain why that one scavenger didn't kill Pike. It was probably a shock to discover that Pike was human. And I,
Wow, that is wow.
right?
That is totally plausible.
Yeah.
Totally plausible. Oh my word. Now
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to watch this again with that in mind.
So putting the deaths of those 7,000 in even starker kind of relief that yeah, it was probably like just a handful that would be in charge, right? And yeah, brutal.
Mm.
So yeah, he goes on, this would make the end of the episode all the worse, since the majority of the people on that scavenger ship could have been lied to and believed that they were the last humans. I wish the Enterprise had managed to find a databank from the debris so we could have learned more about their own history. But this is my little fan fiction headcanon for the background of that ship.
I I I'm willing to adopt that headcanon.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Wow. Yeah.
Great, great amount of thought when
Oh no, we're frozen again.
grumble, grumble, grumble. I'm
I
back. Am I
know.
back?
I'm sorry. You're back.
Okay. Let's yeah, wrap things up, I guess. Anything we haven't talked about, any final thoughts you have on the episode, and rating for the Sehlat who ate its tail?
Well, I'm just going to jump in with the thing that I told you about before we started, which is John Logie Baird. He was a Scottish inventor and electrical engineer and demonstrated the world's first mechanical television system on 26th of January 1926. Went on to invent the first publicly demonstrated color television and the first purely electronic color television picture tube. Unfortunately, he died at the very young age of 57.
Hmm.
And he was also had the world's first transatlantic television transmission. So without John Logie Baird, we wouldn't be talking right now. We wouldn't have television. Well, we probably would have, but he was the first. He was the first. So take that, Philo T. Farnsworth, and shove it
Nice.
up your cathode ray tube. Sorry. Yeah. Anyway, I this episode was, what is the word I'm looking for? Humbling in a way because of
Mhm.
that ending, but also is so beautifully done and shows the building blocks of Kirk's future relationships with all of these crew members. And it's not in your face, it's not overdone, it's not played for laughs. It's very serious. It's scary. It is a scary episode. The visual effects are outstanding, and that's saying something because the visual effects are always outstanding, but this was like a level up from that. And, and it was a hard lesson for everyone involved, and honestly, they're gonna remember that situation for the rest of their lives. Everyone is going to. So I'm going to give it, um, one great big, enterprise telephone network.
Oh, that's a good one. That's good. Yeah, what can I say about this episode? So I had some thoughts on this episode immediately after I watched it, and I kind of stepped back a bit to let it settle because I'm like, oh, maybe it's new episode energy, right? Maybe it's recency bias. Having watched it a couple times since and really sitting with it, um, I'm sticking with my initial thought, which is this is up there with the best of Trek. And I'm not saying the best of New Trek. I'm saying the best of Trek. This episode is on a level with like the TNG episode The Defector or The Wounded or um oh, I'm trying to think like the Deep Space Nine two-parter Improbable Cause and the Die is Cast or Homefront and Paradise Lost. Like this is peak Trek for me. I loved this episode. And you know, I tend to like new Star Trek. I tend to like new episodes when they come out, but I stand by this. This is something that I would show somebody as the best of Star Trek. It's the building of a very important character, just regardless of how you feel about Captain James T. Kirk. He is the quintessential Starfleet captain, as we see later on. He is the ideal that is kind of that Starfleet says you should strive for. How did he become that? Well, this is such a formative event on the road to that. And I love that we're seeing it. The visual effects, the acting by everybody involved, all of it just comes together for top notch 10 out of 10 Star Trek. So yeah, I give this, you know, one hidden TARDIS perched on the Enterprise, which is the best rating I can think to give it, because literally the Doctor showed up in this episode, saw what was going on, and said, "Nah, they got this."
Mhm. Either that, "Ooh, we landed in the wrong spot again." But the TARDIS just takes the Doctor where he's supposed to be, or he or she is supposed to be. So,
It just occurred to me that in a previous in one of the episodes of Doctor Who from this last season, he had that line that had everybody speculating, right? And he's like, "Oh, you don't know Star Trek? Oh, we should go visit them someday." Well, now he has, I guess. There we go.
what? I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Oh my god. I was so ecstatic that they were mentioning Star Trek and Doctor Who, and I forgot about that. And it should have come back to me. Thank you for
I just
reminding
remembered
me of
that
that.
now, yeah.
Wow. Just wow. Wow. It's canon now. It was on screen, so it's canon.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, there you have it. Those are our thoughts on the Sehlat who ate its tail, or the Salat who ate its tail. Um, I'd love to hear what everybody else thinks, so definitely reach out in the comments on the Positively Trek Facebook group. That's a great place to discuss this. And of course, check out the podcast Positively Trek that I do with Barry DeFord every week for new episodes of Star Trek, and monthly with Brandi to talk about the comics that come out each month too. So Brandi, we're gonna have to record that in the next couple of weeks sometime too.
I knew you were gonna say that because I was thinking about it too.
Yeah, well, we just have to wait for the Seeds of Salvation issue 1 to come out, which
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to that. So
Me too. Me too.
yeah.
And I'm really loving Red Shirts.
Oh, Red Shirts is so good.
So good. It's like one of the best Trek comics, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Brandi, what have you got going on Boldly Go and Shield Podulation?
Well, Boldly Go is back talking about, guess what? Strange New Worlds. And thankfully, my husband has the time to do it with me because scheduling people is hard. I don't know if you know this, but all of the creative women that I know are busy. They're busy as heck. And Dave and I, we just know each other, and he is good at providing counterpoints, which I really appreciate because it makes me see things in a different way, and that's important. And so it's we're going to have a lot of, I think we're going to have a really good time talking about this particular episode, which is the next one, obviously, that we will be recording. And that should be, I'm going to say Tuesday. That'll come out. And then we also on Shield Podulation, which is a random Star Trek podcast, where the number came up for Voyager season 1 episode 7, Eye of the Needle. So that is what we're going to be talking about later today, and that episode will also be out later today because we don't edit, and it's fun.
Oh, that's a good first season Voyager episode too.
Yeah, I remember it being that, but I can't remember actually what the episode's about. Don't tell me. Don't tell me.
I won't say a word.
Don't tell me. Because there are certain Star Trek episodes where the name will trigger, oh, yes, this is about that. But about 90% of them, I'm like, I have no idea what episode that is until I start watching it.
Cool. Awesome. Well, yeah, check those out wherever you get your podcasts. Definitely all three of those. They're great, if I do say so myself. So, yeah. Thank you all for joining us this week. We really appreciate it. We will see you again next week for What is Starfleet? And I'm really looking forward to that one too. Thank you, everybody who's joining us live. Thank you to everybody who's watching later. We really appreciate all of you. Until next time, as always, live long and prosper, live logs and proper, and all of that good stuff. Bye, everybody.